Welcome to the Insightful Player Podcast with your host, Chrissy Carew. In each episode, Chrissy interviews NFL players and other professional athletes to help transform our culture to be inclusive, kinder, and more loving. We hope to turn everyone into insightful players in their own lives. Chrissy is also the author of the book Insightful Player, featuring over a dozen stories where football pros lead a bold movement of hope. You can learn more about her book, Chrissy's coaching programs, and more episodes of this show at www.theinsightfulplayer.com. You can also watch other episodes on YouTube and listen through all the major podcast platforms. Now, here's the host of Insightful Player, Chrissy Carew.
Welcome back to the Insightful Player Podcast. Today we have a very special guest on, Montell Owens. He's a former Pro Bowl fullback from Jacksonville Lions and the Bears. He's amazing. I think I met you in 2010, Montell, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, you were laid out in the trainer's room getting a massage or something while we talked.
Probably nursing an injury of some sort. Well, it's a physical sport, isn't it? It's a
you think?
But as far as the dates escape me. So, but yeah, it was quite some time ago. For you and I to have stayed in touch for years, I really count it an honor, to know you and our friendship. Etc. So,
I feel
thank
the
you
same
so
way.
much for having me.
I'm so happy to have you. In addition to playing football, since he's retired, he has his own architecture company, Building Artistry Studio, and he married his passion for architecture and his love of serving others. And in addition to that, he and his trainer, Blake McCoy, created Total Body Band in the garage. My goodness. I can't wait for you to tell us about that. And he helps his wife tutor young children in their school program. And he's a very talented trumpet player. And I got to hear him play his trumpet at his wedding when you surprised Lisa.
That's right.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. So welcome, Montell.
Thank you.
So happy to have you here. There's so many stories we can talk about. And I remember one of the first stories that you shared was about the big shift you made in respect to lessons you learned from Coach Cole when you were at Maine. Right. And how you felt unappreciated and he was driving you. Sure. And you worked really hard because we all know you have such a tremendous work ethic. And why don't you tell us that story about Coach
Cole has a lot to do with that process of developing a work ethic. Coach, a one man, a one coach. The short of the story is that all of us at the University of Maine thought this guy is radical. I mean, he's on fire. And little did we know that fire was due to his illness at the time. And unfortunately, he passed away and it was due to, a rare form of cancer. But, looking back at our time with Coach Cole and why, right? Like, why do we have to do it this way? Why are you trying to exercise every bit of getting our potential sort of out on the field, out in the classroom? Why are you so radical about it? And from the perspective, right? Perspective is key. And from his perspective, he was running out of time. And none of us knew that. So us not knowing it and then knowing it was quite a fascinating thing, a sad thing, but really fascinating that we got a chance to experience really the last days of his life for the couple of years that I was around Coach Cole. So, yeah.
Yeah, he really helped you with your work ethic, huh? He gave you a different perspective on things as well. That's as really.
We're not here long. We're really not here long in the grand scheme of things. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, we're just a blip in the radar,
I know, it's so
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And another story I think is fun. I remember you calling me up and saying, I really want to do a football camp. This is back when you were playing in Jacksonville. And you said, I have no idea how to do it. And but you were so resourceful. You went out and got all these people to help you, and you did it in your hometown in Delaware, and it was enormous. You were so hands-on with the kids. I can't remember how many kids you had, but there was so many kids. It was I really loved being there. You did such a great job. Can you tell that story, how you pulled it together when you had no idea how to do it?
Sure. I think, one of the lessons I've learned from, my parents is, it's not always about having the answer. Sometimes having the answer, is not always what you can rely on. Sometimes it's who do you know that has the answer. So
Right.
I did know a few, past colleagues and those I crossed paths with, while I was at the University of Maine. And I'm just thinking of some names here: Ryan Bird, Oni Moma. These are some of the guys that, I mentioned it to them. I said, hey guys, you want to put on a camp? Let's just do something. I mean, at that time I didn't have kids. Lisa and I were, newly married and whatnot. And so, we thought, wow, let's go ahead and do this. And so they came down at the time. I think Ryan Bird was living in Massachusetts. So he drove all the way down from Mass to come to the camp. And he had done this before. Oni, I think he was in New York. He drove down. And of course, you made the trip too.
Right.
And so I think, between my wife and yourself and so many others, we were able to put that camp together. And I really think the kids responded. Prior to that camp, I had made several phone calls. Hey, let's get the kids out. Let's talk about sports, but let's not let that be the main focus. Let's talk about this life that you're going to live, as best you can, dealing with kids that are, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 years old. And they really responded, and it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. And, we wish we could have put on that camp the following year, but I think I got shipped off to Detroit or something, or I ended up playing someplace else. And so, but that was a great time. I got a lot from it. It's funny, what you learn from, I now have 3 children. It's funny what you learn from 3, 4, 8, 9, and 10-year-olds, so, and some of those lessons I learned, I still, I still implement today. So, yeah.
Yeah, you had a lot of stick-to-itiveness, which I know is a word that you got from Cole, right? Coach Cole?
Yeah, Coach Cole. Coach Cole. Yeah, that's
you went full tilt on that. It was really fun. It was a great, great time. And you really helped a lot of kids. You were so hands-on. So a lot of people are out there today, and the world's in a tough place, and we brought Insightful Player back to bring more inclusion, kindness, and love into the world. And you're all about service. I mean, you're amazing. And you didn't know how to do it, but you figured it out. Is there anything you can share with people right now? Because a lot of people are lost and they don't know where to go next, And you've been someone that look at you. You went to Harvard. I remember you went to Harvard after you retired and took some business classes, and then you started this wonderful architecture company, and you also the Total Body Band in your garage, which is a really cool story. Yeah. And what was your process like to get there?
Well, I think again, my dad, every day, I remember when I was a kid, every day he'd wake up the crack of dawn, 4, 5, 6 in the morning. And, if I had a chance to see him before he got on the road to head to work, he'd always remind me, always say, hey, son, you have a choice. And of course, when I was young, I didn't quite understand the full capacity of really what that meant. You have a choice. And as I got older, and obviously, your relationship with your parents, expands and matures. And, what I come to realize is, every day you have a choice, and really, you have a choice to be the best version of you that you can be that day. And I think that's really what I've set my sights on, beyond the game, beyond the game of football, beyond some of these endeavors that you mentioned, is, how can I be the best person I can be? And I think if I'm the best person I can be, then that allows me to serve others better because I'm better. And so I think it really just starts with myself. Before I always think of myself first before I venture out and and decide that I want to inspire somebody else. How can I be the best person I can be, and that can in turn help somebody else?
It does. It's such a, and it's a wonderful thing to go inside and ask ourselves those kinds of questions,
Right.
because our mind searches and gives us the answers, doesn't it?
It does.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And right now with, gosh, the culture and, the anger out there and the concern about health and what's going on, what we've been through with COVID, how do you think we can really put more, inclusion, kindness, and love into the world? What are your thoughts about that, Montell?
Well, I think in general, I have this, it's, you've heard this before, the less is more approach.
Right.
And I've really honed in on that over the past, I don't know, maybe 5-10 years of and you're right, society today, it's evolving, it's changing. There's really nothing really, if we really take a real, good look at the landscape. But we're all distracted. We all are, there's so much going on. We're being advertised to every second of the day. I mean, whether it's the radio, whether it's, television, or, whether it's you're just driving down the road, there's a billboard screaming at you. And I think, because of the amount of stuff, that is being thrown at us, I think that really distracts us in a way that takes away from us really asking that question. What decision have I made today, regarding myself, and so I think what happens is we end up looking to those things that little do we know are our distraction for answers to our questions. Who am I? And we're waiting for that answer from somebody else or some other thing or social media or something. But I really find that in silence, when you really scale it back and say less of that, less of, now all of a sudden the fog clears, the distraction clears, and maybe we begin to ask ourselves those types of questions, that really allow us to align, with ourselves and really whom we were intended to be.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite guiding principles. Everybody's, I didn't mention that Montell's in my book. And at the end of each chapter, we have each player's guiding principles. And there's a couple, right? I usually save this to the end, but it's just perfect now.
No better time than that.
Yeah, in one of his guiding principles is trust and act on your yearnings for your success. Like trust on your yearnings. And if you do that, then you get into the questions that, that are more thought-provoking, right? Like believe in those yearnings like you did. And also to believe in yourself, especially when others don't. These are two guiding principles of Montell's from my book. And that speaks to everything you just talked about, right?
Sure.
Yeah. It's really hard to trust our yearnings with all this craziness and all this distraction that's going on, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, it really is. I mean, really, truth be told, the things that we either choose to meditate on or, whether it's voluntary or involuntary, however it's going in our eyes, our ears, our touch, all of our senses, that begins to manifest in a certain way, So if we're receiving positive affirmations, if we're receiving those things, then eventually, in due time, those seeds of positivity begin to grow. If we're always hearing, negativity, we're always being told you should be in fear of this or that. Eventually, those things will manifest, and that's really a human phenomenon. There's nothing, we can really do to negate the fact that whatever we surround ourselves with, whether it be, again, whatever those things are, it will begin to manifest itself. So, so I think that's something else that we all must consider. What are we spending most of our time doing? What are we spending most of our time receiving?
Right.
And because they will play out either in our minds, in our own psychology, in our relationships, in our passions. Trust in what we believe we should be or do. It can be robbed, right? Someone can continue to put seeds of doubt, in you. And I think we've all been, a casualty to that. But I think it's something we must all be aware of. So.
Right. And that circles back to you always working on your personal development. How
Sure.
can I be the best person that I can be? And by asking that question, that makes it easier for you to hear those yearnings in your heart and to go after what's most important to you. And I think we all have a responsibility more than ever because of the culture. We're in a spiritual crisis. And I think if we all followed our hearts and contributed by living out our passion, I think that in itself would create more peace. What do you think?
I believe so heartedly that's true. It's as a society, there's a herd, right? And this society wants to tell you who to be, how to be, when to be. And really, those are personal decisions. Those aren't decisions that others really can make for you. But how many times have we all failed in the sense that we're going to let, this third party sort of, dictate our future? So you're exactly right.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's, if we could be more curious and open to people with differing views. And I have failed miserably at that, watching the news, right?
Yeah.
And I confess, I'm a Democrat, and I try to turn on the opposite and, just to say, okay, I want to learn from them. I want to grow and I want to grow. And then I'm tempted to run out of the room screaming because I can't take it. But I think if we could have one day of news that's just facts on every side of the fence, both sides of the fence, facts only allowed, right? None of this extremism on one side or the other, right? Just facts,
Well, yeah. And one of the things that's fascinating to me is that, a long time ago, factual information was hard to come by. I mean, if you didn't live in a town, we're going way back. If you didn't live in a town where there was a library, if there wasn't a library in your town, I mean, you were. It was difficult, and so today we have access. We've got the internet. We've got a library. At every street corner. There's so many resources that we have, and I think we all we fail to take full advantage. Hey, welcome to the party. So. But one of the things that my wife has shown me really over the past 10 years is that hey, go to the library, check out some books. I mean, everything you want to know or you aspire to be, or it's right there. And so I think for a lot of us, we are. It's easy to sit down and turn on the radio or television, but go ahead and check out 100 books, and
absolutely.
And it's funny. We actually made that a point here at our house where each one of us has checked out 100 books, which is the limit here in Duval County. But when you try to check out the 101, they won't let you. So I think that's one of the things that my wife has shown me over the years. Get a book, read it, make up your own mind. And there have been, so many people ahead of us, right?
Right.
Well before myself, well before my wife, my kids, that have figured some things out, and they've written those things down to share, so.
Right, they have, and they give us insights,
That's right. That's exactly right.
which is a wonderful thing, you know, because the internet, you know, because of the hate that's all around, it's because of the internet, which is a blessing and a curse. The curse part of it spreads so quickly. And so what we want to do, everybody, is spread the love, right, Montell? We want to spread the love.
That's right.
And if we get in the habit of reading more, we'll be less tempted to watch the news, right?
Right. Well, it gives you a better filter. I mean, this is just my own personal experiences. You know, reading something, reading the study, reading, you know, about how the wheel was invented or whatever. All of a sudden, when the news comes on and they're talking about wheels, it's like, oh, I actually read the book by the inventor. You know, it's so it's like, wow, you know, that's not why he did that, or oh, you know, they're spot on. And so you know, I think you know, having that foundation of knowledge, it really helps us navigate, you know, a lot of the, you know, what you've mentioned, you know, a lot of the hate, a lot of the misinformation, things of that nature.
Right. It gets us more on a more loving path, right? Because we become more resourceful and less judgmental, right? And have more
that is yes. That was another point I was going to make, is really that exposure. See, you know, and it's funny. I look at my children, and a couple of years ago, my daughter, we said, hey, try. I think it was like a piece of asparagus or Brussels sprouts or something. We said, try it. And she said, I don't like it. And I said, well, wait a minute. You've never had it before. Well, I don't like it. And I think, you know, here we are, you know, you have children that sort of respond in a way where what they don't know, they don't like. And adults are the same way, you know, for things that we don't know or we're afraid of, all of a sudden we don't like it, you know, and we have this resentment towards it, or, you know, it's not this positive outlook on whatever that thing is, subject matter, type, person, you know, and so I think a lot of times that that's something we need to consider. The more we know about something through an open mind, as you've mentioned, that gives us now a really good sober, you know, idea of what that thing is, and we can now appreciate it. You know,
right? Absolutely, and yeah, and we can appreciate it, and it gets us on a path to develop more intimate relationships, you know, with friends and family. And, you know, because because people have been secluded, they've been alone. And even before then, people have this unmet need to belong. And because of that, people need to belong to something. And I think that's how a lot of these cults have, you know, manifested themselves, is that's how we stop and we research, then we won't be tempted to go into those cults without thinking. That's a big concern of mine. So the intimacy is so important, you know, to develop those friendships and family members. And you're really good at that, because you really are plugged right into your community, you know, through your church and through the kids' schooling, and, you know, your beautiful Lisa, you know, and it's great. You know, I love Lisa. So, and then another thing you talked about is like, that I really found interesting, is that, you know, we all need to contribute to making humanity succeed, and to making life in the world a better place. And some people feel that's grandiose, you know, that, oh, how can I do that? How can I do it? And you had talked to me about saying, wait a minute, it's the smaller things that make a difference, and you're really good at that. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, and I think it follows the same mantra of less is more. You know, I think we're always, here we go again with this big advertisement of who to be, how to be, when to be, of society. And every society is big, it's grand, it's louder, it's brighter. How big can we make it? And it's funny when you look at social media, you know, it's a two-edged sword. There's so much good about it, but then there's so much bad about it. And everybody's jockeying for position for how loud or how big or how, you know, for your attention. And I think sometimes we approach life in that manner, where, you know, if there's a problem, or if there's an initiative, or we want to, you know, instead of one bite at a time, we want to try and tackle the whole thing. And so I really think as it pertains to humanity, what about your neighbor? I've met so many people that that don't even know their next door neighbor. They don't know them. They don't know their name. They don't know anything about them. Yet they see them at the mailbox, or they cross paths somehow in the parking lot or something like that. And I just think to myself, we'll drive 50 miles to make an impact on the other side of town, but we don't know our neighbor. And so our family's really taken on the approach of, hey, when you're at the mailbox, say hello. And we've been surprised at how far that goes into your own life and the lives of those that all of a sudden you're aware of that are in your vicinity.
Absolutely. And that's how it was and I'm much older than you, but that's how it was in the neighborhood I grew up. We all knew each other, and it was like we had a million parents and a million brothers and sisters from all the different families. And the way the homes are built and everything, it's like, garage door openers, and so we don't see people, so we have to make that effort.
Yeah, we don't see people as much, and it's funny you mentioned that. We changed locations, our family within Jacksonville, because there was an unmet need, and that need was, we were living in an environment which was a garage door shut community, which is, everybody drives the driveway, the garage door shuts, and that's it. And now we live in a community that's zero lot line, and you can reach over and you can see your neighbor in their kitchen, and you're waving, and I'll take the trash in for you when you're gone, and things like that, which for our children, we're finding very, it's had a positive, it's been a positive outcome in their lives so far. So anyway, to your point,
yeah, we need to make an effort in doing that. So, before we end, I know you have a dear friend that you want to share, do a shout out on, Tim Shaw. Can you tell us about Tim Shaw?
Sure, Tim Shaw. Wow. He is just an incredible human being. He and I played together when I was in Jacksonville, playing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I'll never forget, I don't think I ever shared the story with you, but we were working out in the off season, and this guy was a linebacker, and a linebacker eats running backs for lunch. So he was like twice the size of me. Anyway, so we're working out, and we get done with this workout, a grueling workout, I might add. It was tough. And for whatever reason, I finally gained the courage to ask him, hey, man, how come you always beat me? Every time we work out together, I think we're doing gassers or something. You're twice the size of me. We both work very, very hard, and you run like the wind. How do you And his answer, I said, how do you do that? And it was fascinating what his answer was. And what he told me was, he said, Montell, I can't take credit for that. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, I was fortunate to have been given the opportunity for someone to tell me that I had potential, and that I had access to this potential, and that I could be the best version of me that I could be.
Oh, wow.
So I can't take credit really for how I run. It was something that was really given to me. And I thought that was just amazing. It took me a while to digest that, but I really thought that he didn't talk about how hard he worked. He didn't talk about what he did. He talked about the how grateful he was to be able to reach into his own potential and grab that.
Wow.
And I thought that was fascinating.
That's powerful. Yeah.
So today he's battling ALS. Debilitating disease, and but he is still the same person that he was back when we played. So while his physical self is sort of diminished, his mind is still as sharp and crisp, and he's just that type of individual. So inspiring.
And he has to use some kind of technology to speak.
I believe he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, I think commonplace for those that have ALS, and it progresses to a point where, you know, they can't converse as you and I are conversing. But he's got technology's help. So
It's amazing how courageous he is, and what a great story. And we'll keep him in our prayers, and we'd love to have him on. If he's interested, so he can share his
I'm
story.
sure he would.
Yeah, he sounds like a wonderful, wonderful man. A great role model. We need more of those.
Right.
And more people like Montell. He's just such an earnest, good man. And you've brightened up my life. I'm so happy that.
Likewise. Thank you
for your friendship. It's really special, and you are. And we'll have you on again as many times as you want.
Let's do it.
It's a real treat. And everyone, go out and meet a neighbor today. Go over and say hello to them. Let's all connect again. We need to connect. That's a huge missing out there, isn't it, Montell?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
And pour more love into the world, and let us know what you're doing. Reach out to us. And if you know any insightful players in your life, they don't have to be an athlete, any person that's doing some wonderful things to contribute to others, let us know. We'd love to have them on.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next time. The entire Insightful Player podcast initiative is dedicated to the late Tom Constantino.
Thank you for watching and listening to the Insightful Player podcast with your host, Chrissy Carew. Chrissy is also the author of the book Insightful Player, featuring over a dozen stories where football pros lead a bold movement of hope. You can learn more about her book, Chrissy's coaching programs, and more episodes of the show at www.theinsightfulplayer.com. We hope to turn everyone into insightful players in their own lives. You can also watch other episodes on YouTube and listen through all the major podcast platforms. Thank you for your comments, reviews, and sharing the show with others.